Information for this presentation is provided by the Palo Alto Medical Foundation, presented by Nevada Child Seekers. For more information about our programs and other resources that we offer families in the state of Nevada, visit www.nevadachildseekers.org. This presentation is on healthy relationships. The purpose of this project is to help teens make the healthiest choices they can make in relationships and understand the consequences associated with their behavior. Our slogan is "Run your relationships, don't let them run you." We believe that you are in charge of each of your relationships and that you deserve respect in every relationship. But sometimes it's too easy to live with relationships that are not good for us. We want to help you take control of your relationships and be able to evaluate decisions so things don't just happen, and you find yourself in a situation where you feel scared, confused, and pressured into doing things that you're not comfortable with. During this presentation, when we say relationship, we mean every relationship, not just intimate or romantic relationships. However, especially because of the high rates of teen dating violence, because many questions from teens tend to be about this kind of relationship, and because you will all be in an intimate relationship later in life, we are going to focus a bit more on intimate romantic relationships later in the presentation. However, we will first talk about the healthy and unhealthy components of all types of relationships. When you think of relationships, what people or situations come to mind? We have relationships such as family, like a sibling or a parent, friends, a romantic relationship like a boyfriend or girlfriend, or even casual, like a professional relationship or acquaintances. In thinking about different types of relationships, I want to point out that you can have an intimate relationship with anyone. It doesn't have to be a context of a romantic relationship. Many people think that intimate means being physically intimate, such as being in a relationship where you act intimately. However, an intimate relationship can be with anyone who you are really close to and who you can be completely open and honest with. Each and every one of us are in relationships with other people, so having good relationships is extremely important. Why? Because being in a good relationship helps us know ourselves. Having a healthy relationship with yourself and respecting your own body and values can help you have a healthy relationship with others. Good relationships also help us develop as a person, grow emotionally, and teach us how to communicate and maintain meaningful bonds with other people. And of course, being in a good relationship is fun. We like to spend time with people who make us feel good, who we can be ourselves with, and who are fun to be around. In a good, healthy relationship between two people, each person is allowed to be an individual within the relationship. Both people are allowed to grow independently of each other and as a pair or couple. This kind of healthy relationship involves freedom, encouragement, and support of each other's efforts, boundaries, cooperation, and compromise, and being considerate. That all sounds easy, but as we all know, relationships take work, and we need to be conscious of our feelings. There are many types of relationships, and all relationships have good days and bad days. However, the ones you want to avoid are those that make you feel bad about yourself, like you have to do what the other person says, or make you feel afraid or in danger. A healthy relationship never includes teasing or bullying, power struggles, angry outbursts, withholding love, coercion or peer pressure, unreasonable demands, or humiliation. A very unhealthy relationship might include relationship violence. It's a pattern of abuse that happens between people in any type of relationship and may include unwanted contact, physical, verbal, or emotional abuse. No one deserves abuse. It doesn't matter what the person's appearance, attitude, or actions are. There is no excuse for abuse. In addition to being in an unhealthy relationship, it means that they are more likely to have things just happen and become out of control. Teens like you are getting exposed to examples of unhealthy relationships earlier and more often than your parents were. Through what we see at home, TV, movies, magazines, friends, and online. Most often, these media sources do not accurately depict a real relationship. Instead, they are most often superficial, short-term, and easy. Think of the reality TV shows. Can you share a few examples that you've seen? Teens report that media is a main source of information about sex, dating, and sexual health. However, out of the 68% of TV shows that contain content like this, like reality TV shows, only 15% discuss risks and responsibility. This is one example of how the media is giving teens some unhealthy messages about relationships. So how can you create and maintain a healthy relationship in spite of the media influences? This is where the ABCs come in. And let's get started on that. A stands for awareness. And awareness means general knowledge and using what you know to respect others and demand respect from others. Knowing consequences of unhealthy relationships and recognizing danger signs and what your boundaries are. Preventing violence by recognizing a lack of power and respect, requiring that you apply the knowledge you have to change unhealthy relationships into healthy ones. B stands for balance. Being in sync with your partner and having a relationship that is not one-sided, meaning that one person doesn't have more control than the other. Communication is key to staying balanced. You have to both listen and talk about what each other wants. Both people need to recognize that they each have valuable opinions and then work together to share and balance their desires. You and your friends probably have similar interests, but you're not completely the same. The same is true for your family and your boyfriend or girlfriend. You can certainly do things together, but remember that you can have different interests too. Make sure you have time to do these things. If you change in a relationship and adopt all the other person's favorite things, hobbies, lifestyles, this is a very bad sign. C stands for choices. Most importantly, conscious choices. Conscious choices include being able to decide what the next step in the relationship is, making sure things don't just happen. This is a common excuse for teens use for getting into emotional or sexual situations they don't know how to handle. So how can knowing the ABCs help you have healthy relationships? Let's think about that for a second. In order to be aware, balanced, and make healthy choices, you need communication, trust, and respect. They are the keys to healthy relationship and are the base of the ABCs. Communication involves talking and listening. They go hand in hand. Relationships are two-sided. Each person has a responsibility to make themselves heard and to hear other people. If you are always listening, or if you're always talking, the relationship is not balanced. What are some good ways to be a good listener? Asking them questions, adding advice or a similar experience, really listening to what they have to say without trying to think of responses or your next line when you're speaking. Supporting the other person's endeavors. These are all great examples of communication. When we communicate with another person, what we say is not necessarily the most important part of our message. Our body language and our tone can say so much more than our words. How can the body language influence the way a person feels? And how can you interpret somebody's feelings based on their body language? In any relationship, it's important to be able to trust each other. This means being honest with the other person in the relationship. Having trust in a relationship also means proving to each other that you are reliable and responsible, showing that you're dependable. What happens in a relationship without trust? What can you add to the points on this slide? What does respect mean to you? What are examples of respect in a relationship? Respect is a pattern of behavior that's found in a healthy relationship. With respect, you have to give it to get it, and everyone deserves respect. People who respect each other, trust and support each other, value each other's independence, have the freedom to be themselves, talk honestly and freely, make decisions together and compromise, respect boundaries, and encourage each other to spend time with friends and family. The best way to be respectful is by making sure you are respecting yourself. You should have opinions, express opinions, and feel good about a relationship. You shouldn't feel pressured to do something just because it seems like everyone else is doing it, or because someone else is trying to get you to do something. It's important to show respect not only with your actions, but also with your words. What are some examples of verbal and emotional abuse? Belittling, put-downs, and unreasonable accusation are forms of verbal and emotional abuse. They are not part of a healthy relationship. If someone calls you stupid, ugly, or fat in front of others, or when you're alone, sometimes ignores you when certain people are around, calls you constantly, is jealous of everyone, and needs to know where you are at all times, are some examples of disrespect and an unhealthy relationship. Personal boundaries are limits we use to protect ourselves, and they are formed by having good self-understanding and clear personal values. An important part of respecting yourself and other people is understanding and honoring these boundaries. Each relationship has its own set of boundaries to be respected. Part of having boundaries is understanding each other's values. This ensures that you are remaining an individual in the relationship and not changing what you believe based on the other person. There are some situations, however, in which these boundaries should be crossed, such as when there is a threat to a person's health or life. Can you think of any examples? You can use the ABCs to help you evaluate any relationship. Let's apply the ABCs to this example. If a friend tells you that they are thinking of hurting themselves, A, are you aware of all the risks? To you, to your friend, the consequences? B, is there balance in your friendship? Are you balancing your friendship with all the consequences? Helping friendship versus helping your friend? C, what are your choices? Making the choice to help a friend even if it hurts your friendship. Evaluate. Is this a real friendship? Is it healthy? Is it worth staying friends with this person if they continue these behaviors? Second, let's now consider a situation that many teens face after they have been dating for a long time, whether or not they're ready to play the naked parcheesi. One expert says, the short answer is that you are definitely not ready if you haven't talked about and prepared ways to avoid pregnancy and sexual transmission disease. You have a choice about a kind of relationship you want to have with a boyfriend or girlfriend. Remember, if you are pressured or forced to perform sexual acts against your will, you are a victim of dating violence. Also, just letting it happen can have consequences too. For those of you not thinking about sexuality, please don't tune out now. Someday you'll also face these choices. Sometimes relationships don't work out. The danger signs of an unhealthy relationship should be easily recognizable. Lack of talking and no communication, inability to listen, no trust, jealousy, no balance, and no respect. Do you have examples of these from your friends or your own relationships? Abuse always escalates, and it rarely gets better. Specifically, if you experience any of these things, you may be involved in an unhealthy relationship. Does the other person put you down, get extremely jealous or possessive, constantly check up on you, tell you how to dress, try to control you and what you do and what you see, have big mood swings, make you feel nervous, criticize you, or threaten you? Knowing these warning signs can help act as a red sign in your relationship. You can stop and figure out if your relationship is abusive before things get out of control. Not all of these signs will be in every abusive relationship. If one or more of these warning signs exist in your relationship, it doesn't necessarily mean that your relationship is abusive, but your relationship may not be as healthy as you deserve it to be. Adolescents and adults are often unaware about how regularly dating abuse occurs. Especially because of statistics, it's important to recognize the danger signs of an abusive relationship so that you can make sure you get out as soon as possible. So what exactly is the dating violence cycle? It includes tension, violence, and seduction. Jealousy and possessiveness are two of the most common warning signs of dating abuse. Abusers use them to control the other person's behavior. These elements can keep the cycle in motion. Love for the abuser, believing that the relationship is not entirely bad, hope, thinking things will change or it's just a phase, and fear, worrying that threats will become a reality and so are afraid to end the relationship. Many people in abusive relationships are in denial. They cling to the myth that their partner will never do it again. Saying he or she will never do it again is futile because violence is a pattern of behaviors. Rarely does someone abuse their partner only once. Another myth is that they are not being abused. Dating abuse does include physical and other kinds of violence, but it also can include emotional and verbal abuse, which includes put-downs, insults, and threats. That they will leave when the time is right. People stay in abusive relationships for a variety of reasons. These include fear of being alone, emotional dependence, confusion, low self-esteem, not realizing that it's abuse, or a belief that the abuser will change. And also that it only happens to girls. Men and males can also be victims in controlling and abusive relationships. They can be embarrassed to confess that they are being abused because they, the abuser, and other people sometimes have a bias that only females are abused. What about if you suspect that a friend is in an unhealthy relationship? How would that friend act? Ask yourself if your friend constantly cancels plans for reasons that don't sound true. Always worry about making their boy-girlfriend angry. Give up things that are important, show signs of physical abuse, tell you that they get pressured into doing things that they don't want to do, or feel like a sexual object. Have a boyfriend or girlfriend that wants them to be available all the time and has become isolated from friends or family. If the answer is yes to a significant number of these questions, that friend could be in the abusive relationship. What can you do about an abusive relationship? If you are being abused, you should consider how much you care about the relationship. If you really care about the relationship, try to work it out before you end it. Maybe you should spend some time apart and then figure out what went wrong after you have cooled off. Although if the relationship is violent, it may be better to end it now. Reporting physical abuse can help protect you in the case of abuser pursues you after you leave the relationship. If a friend is in an unhealthy relationship, talk to him or her and explain why you think it's harmful and offer to help them to get help. There are also hotlines, internet sites, and counselors dedicated to offering teen advice and support. Here are some suggestions for helping a friend deal with an unhealthy and violent relationship. Help them to recognize that feeling bad about themselves is not normal and that they deserve a healthy, non-violent relationship. Encourage their strength and courage. Do not make them feel bad for their choices, even if you think these choices are wrong. Offer to go with them to find a counselor or support group, or talk to their family, friends, or teachers. Remember that you cannot rescue them. Have you ever had any of these experiences, such as recognizing an unhealthy or abusive relationship, ending a relationship, or helping a friend? What decisions did you make? What are some resources that you know? Here are some resources that we have. The National Domestic Violence Hotline, Break the Cycle, Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network. Building on communication, trust, and respect, make sure you practice the ABCs, awareness, balance, and choices, and use them as guidelines to help you have healthy relationships. Thank you for listening to this presentation. Again, for more information about Nevada Child Seekers and the presentations that we offer, visit www.nevadachildseekers.org or give us a call at 702-458-7009. See you next time.